Hello there, welcome back to the channel. This is Nerdworld. Recently I have been rewatching episodes of The Next Generation, and as usual with any Star Trek series, the early seasons are always a little twitchy, and they're a lot twitchier than I remember Code of Honor. And yeah, it's spurred me on to look at a few story beats from those early seasons, and one of which, as I like to study and look at random stuff in the background of shows, has come to me as we're going to look at the SS Mariposa, a 22nd century starship launched with the intent of settling colonies deep in space. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe and comment down below. And with that said, let's get started. To start off with, the SS Mariposa was an Earth craft commissioned in the very early 22nd century. The vessel's registry was NAR 7678. Notably, that's a registry number that was still being used in the 24th century, or at least the NAR part of it. This vessel, of course, was not affiliated with Starfleet and was operated and owned by an Earth organization called the OCC. As I said, it was a DY500 class, which was a descendant of the more famous DY100 series that had started in the late 20th century and made famous by being used by Khan Noonien Singh, as him and his augments used it as an escape vessel to get away from Earth and start their own colony themselves. The name of the ship, Mariposa, is Spanish for butterfly, as Daisy quite pointlessly points out in the episode. The ship would actually go on to found two human colonies out in deep space, both the Mariposan colony and another colony of a more primitive culture, well, people who believed in technical regression to some degree, a sort of simpler life known as on the planet of Bringloid, or the Bringloidi as they will become known, who were a group of Irish neo-transcendentalists. Basically, they were like people that wanted to live a simpler life of farming and basically getting away from technology, something we can all occasionally associate with. The vessel itself, as I said, was developed on Earth in as early as 2102. Several of this class would actually be developed by Earth, and even Captain Kirk, because of the similarity in design, would mistake the Botany Bay for a DY500 series instead of it being the DY100 series. Even the great Kirk could make that mistake. There were several others of these vessels known to have existed and were recorded in Starfleet records. The vessel was propelled by a Yoyodyne pulse fusion warp drives for propulsion. The exact maximum speed of the vessel is unknown, but we do know that Earth had not yet broken the warp 2 barrier, so it's in all probability not capable of exceeding that particular speed. It was probably around warp 1 to warp 1.5, which means it would have taken a very long time to get as far out to settle the colonies of the Bringloidi and the Mariposans. This specific ship, the SS Mariposa, was launched on the 27th of November 2123 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome on Earth. It would have on board it 225 Yoshimitsu Model 4077 computer CPUs, 5 Type 9 monitor beacon satellites, 700 University of Manitoba cellular comlinks, 50 spinning wheels, 20 Unglade's cattle, 200 chickens, 30 pigs, 20 surfboards, and 32 rotary tiller mill 1102 cultivators. Now, it should be noted that this vessel, as I said, it would go on to found two colonies. One with the Bringloidi, wanted a simpler life, and one that would be the Mariposans, one the more advanced one. It would drop off the Bringloidi first, and there will be no further contact between these two colonies for well over 300 years. The Bringloidi sticking to their more simple way of life, and the Mariposans going more advanced. Unfortunately for the Mariposans, however, while the vessel was descending down to what would be their colonial homeworld, the skin of the vessel was breached and forced it to crash, killing most of the crew and, of course, settlers. The vessel was unrecoverable, and they were not able to contact Earth to tell them what had happened. Much of their technology was lost, although they would recover over the ensuing centuries, and they would resort to cloning the remaining 5 survivors, as 5 people was not enough of a gene pool to actually start a civilization. They would simply clone. And it didn't matter how many clones you create, of course, because they're all duplicates of the original. There's still technically only 5 people, even though it's implied that their population had swelled into the many hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions. They wanted, of course, by the time they were re-encountered by Starfleet in the 24th century, human DNA to now continue cloning because of the problem of copies. In the end, the Brinloidi will be reunited with them, which could have been an option that they could have explored at this point 300 years earlier if it was not for the Mariposa being completely destroyed upon landing. There's no evidence that the vessel needed to be dismantled, as we saw with such colonies as the Terra Novans. The DY-500 was designed to be reused. It's likely the colonists intended to continue using the ship to either retain contact with Earth or retain contact with the colony, but as they pointed out, they were surprised that no one from Earth ever came to check on them, and things just became the status quo on the colony. And Picard would inform them that regrettably they were lost in the bureaucracy and chaos of the early 22nd century, as Earth formed into a proper, solid world government, and Starfleet was created out of the other pre-existing agencies like NASA and the International Space Agency. They were just simply lost in the paperwork. It's unfortunate, but such things happen with a spacefaring civilization. So there we have the SS Mariposa, a quite impressive little ship for what it was. As I said, it was warp capable, but its exact capabilities are unknown. It was probably unarmed. This was, after all, basically a civilian ship. If it had any kind of defences, they wouldn't have been significant. Probably railguns at best, maybe some early lasers. No shields, would have had limited defences. And no subspace communications, which is another reason they wouldn't have been able to contact Earth. And as much of the equipment was lost, both of the ship itself and the stores, the colony did struggle, but they were expecting Earth to come to check on them, but it never did. And we know in Enterprise that they didn't know about that world. They knew about worlds like Terra Nova, which were settled a bit later, but not about the Mariposans, unfortunately. Anyway, as I said, there we have the DY-500 class SS Mariposa.
Sir? Clones. Clones? Clones.
I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and bye bye.